Okay. We can catch up later.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
One question: how do we do the change in the screen sharing?
Um, we'll do it somehow.
Just to be prepared.
Ok, sta andando. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. We are almost ready. Can you hear me? Then the lag. Then no. Okay. Okay, no worries. Okay, we're ready to start. Wow. Sì. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Python Milano. We are a community of developers, hobbyists, having fun with Python. What we do meetups like this one. When we don't do meetups, we like to meet in any case. And so instead of talking about Python, we drink beer and we eat together. And we also have a podcast called Intervista Pythonista. It's in Italian right now, but today I discovered that there is a service to automatically translate. So maybe it will be in English in the future. Or in any language. If you want to join our community, just go to milano.python.it and you'll find all the resources, all the social, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, anything. If you want to propose a talk, just scan that QR code. Of course, we'll give you the link if you want later. Where we do our meetups, we do meetups anywhere that someone hosts us. We started in 10 years ago in Red Hat. Then when Red Hat was not hosting us anymore, we start going around. So all the companies that wants to host us, they can do it. We've been in Futura, Octopus Energy, Mirta, Prima, Crafted Software, and today we are in FiscoZen. So if someone wants to say something about FiscoZen.
Well, I'll be super short. It's nice to see so many of you here. I know Python has a super lively community. Rafa, one of the people working with us, is a strong supporter. Rafa, if it's here. I'm glad you came. It's our new office. If you want to do more of these, please, you're welcome. And no, really, seeing so many of you passionate about what you do and collaborating with each other, open source, creating stuff together, it's what really startups are about. So we couldn't say no, okay? It's part of what we do. So enjoy. I'm not going to be saying anything else. Ciao, take care.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you also to Python Italia that is giving us some stuff to do all the streaming and the podcast. And thank you to Division Lab for supporting us for the video streaming, and all of our media partners and friends, Django Girls, PyCon, Python Biella, and the Red Code. So that was all. Yes, I give the stage to Sinan to talk about Gitpod. Let's discover what it is.
Right back. Hello, everyone. I'm Sinan. Today I will talk about my open source contributions using another open source tool, which is Gitpod. Just a brief info about myself. I am Turkish. I started my career in Istanbul, Turkey, working as a management consultant at a company called EY, Ernst& Young. Basically, there I was working with clients to fix their business problems. So in that role, I was very far away from developers. Then I changed to work in UniCredit. First, I spent some time in Istanbul working as a project manager and process analyst, and also some time in Vienna. Now I am started to get a bit closer to developers, understand what they do. And finally, for the last 4 years, I am in Milano, of which 3 years I was working as a project manager. And for the last 1 year, I decided to become a developer and said, why not? Let's go for it. Thanks. Before I was working as a developer in my job, I was contributing to open source project a lot, and I had one issue. It started with this old MacBook. It's like a 6-7 years old MacBook. This is the first part of the problem. Then the second part of the problem, it's actually not a problem, but it's my issue. I am contributing a project, open source project called Mattermost. It's a open source alternative to Slack, Microsoft Teams, etc. And they use Golang in the backend and TypeScript in the front end. And if you wanna do your local setup, you also need Docker, IntelliJ, etc. And you know where I'm going, right? There is almost a fire in my computer, and basically you cannot write a single line of code with this old MacBook. Okay. So the second problem is, let's assume that you have an open source project or you would like to onboard a new developer to your team, right? And what happens usually, in my case, in UniCredit, they assign you a virtual machine, but you need to open a ticket. This means that you need to wait 3-4 days. And then you need a local setup. Same for the new contributor to the open source project, right? Probably there is a good documentation about how to do a local setup, but if contributor see an issue, it goes to GitHub issues, open an issue, and maintainer needs to respond. So this means that at the best case, 3-4 days without writing any line of code. And this is the best case. In the open source, probably that contributor already left the project without any commits, let's say. Then my solution to this, at that time, I didn't have a budget to buy a new Mac with an M chip. So then at that time, there was also cloud solution for everything, right? There was throwing cloud everywhere. Then I thought maybe there is a solution for this, and I discovered a Gitpod. What is Gitpod? It provides a cloud development environment which is on demand, pre-configured with all the tools, libraries, dependencies, and you are ready to code. And it's on demand. What do we mean by on demand? Developers can spin up a development environment with just one click in 10-15 minutes. It's extensible, so you can use Gitpod for different type of projects. They support Python, Golang, Java, of course, PHP. Don't forget the PHP. Then it's consistent. Of course, you know there is a saying that you write some code, you send it to UAT environment, let's say a production, and you say as a developer, but it works on my machine, right? Gitpod eliminates this problem. They say works on any machine because every developer use same configuration, same tools, same libraries. And finally, it's open source. You can check their source code in their GitHub repo. Okay, I think enough talk. Let's see some real action. I will do 2 demo today. The first one will be with the Python and Django. And this repository has no Gitpod configuration, doesn't know about Gitpod. And I was searching for a project, and I saw this project called Plane. It's an open source alternative to Jira. You see that I like open source alternatives, right? And if it's free, it's better. So right now I need to create a Gitpod workspace environment, and there are multiple ways to do it. But I think the easiest way to do is I go to URL, I prefix it with gitpod.io/nhash. Need to log in. Okay. So Gitpod is asking me, are you want to create this? Are you want to create a workspace from this repository? Yes. What is your favorite IDE? You can use VS Code browser, desktop, and also the IntelliJ IDEs. For the sake of simplicity, I will go with the VS Code in the browser. And it also asks me what kind of machine I would like to have, standard or a big one. I will prefer a big one, just so we can speed up. Okay, now Gitpod actually is preparing our development environment. There are some information it's giving, pulling the container image. Now it's getting ready. In a few seconds, probably, it should open a VS Code on my browser. Fingers crossed, everything can go wrong in the demo.
Is it taking so long because it's a big repository?
No, it shouldn't take that long, right? There is no, we have a Git podder here. There is no deployment to production. There is.
Is it holding the image like locally or like there on the remote machine?
They are on the remote machine, right? In your local, there is nothing. I don't have any Python configuration, any or Golang or Java configuration in my computer. Voila. Okay, the first thing it will do, it will try to run some things to actually run the project. Let's see, it says yarn install, yarn run build. It's a good start, but I think it's not enough. Let's check their documentation. So here, clone the repo, run this command. Let's see. Okay. The second step is run setup sh with your local host, but we are running in cloud environment, so we should replace the Gitpod with Gitpod URL, and I can get Gitpod URL like this, and it should run on port 8T, because I know that because of I read the documentation of the open source project. Let me do this, and I should sit down. Okay, let me copy the URL. Then last step is I am running the Docker. So
Can you zoom in? Thank you.
how should I do it? Oh, maybe here. Better. Okay. So it's running basically what is needed for the application. It's a Python and Django. I am not very familiar with this Python and Django, so you know better than than I am what's going on. But this will take some time. In the meantime, I would like to create. I would like to talk about one important file here, which is the Gitpod YAML. This is the actually only configuration file that Gitpod needs. And in the beginning, if the project doesn't know about Gitpod, it creates one itself. And as you can see, these are exactly the same things that we saw in the terminal in the beginning. So here I should replace this with the project need. So basically what I'm telling to Gitpod is that in the beginning, you should open a port with 80, and you should open in this when it's ready in the browser, and its visibility is public, which means that everyone from anywhere of the world can access this URL. It's also super useful. For example, if you are working with a designer, your product manager, you can just share the link and they have access to your local environment basically. Then I think the task is the most important part of the Gitpod configuration file, because each task creates a new terminal for you, and this terminal will be called server, and it will run these exact commands that in every new workspace. So what you need to do, you just push this Gitpod configuration file to the GitHub. So every time you create a new workspace or a new developer creates a new workspace, they don't need to do anything. It will just run automatically. Again, as I said, this will take some time, so I would like to proceed with the second demo. Then we will come back to this one and we will check the status, if it's completed or not. But actually, it's completed faster than I expected. Okay, here we are seeing the port. I should also run some yarn dependencies. Anyhow, let's proceed with the next one. Let's not waste time. The second demo is actually another open source project, Mattermost, that I am contributing, and it's using Golang. I wanted to pick another one with another language, completely different tech stack. And they have their Gitpod configuration already available, so I don't need to do anything. Then I will do the same thing. I will go to their GitHub repo, prefix their URL with gitpod.io/hash. Again, the same questions. Let's pick a large machine. Large machine is a bit expensive, but it's free for now for me, so I can use it. Again, fingers crossed. In the meantime, let's also check the other one.
So this time the repository already have the Gitpod configuration, so you don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
It will start the server automatically.
Yeah. So here I should see a bunch of terminals that running in parallel. So the first thing they are doing is actually opening a README file in port 9000, and it's a very nice introduction to new developers. It tells you what are they doing in their Gitpod repo, which terminals they are running, and what are they doing actually. But let's close this, and I want to show you the Gitpod configuration file. I can check from there. Here is their Gitpod file. Is it smart? Okay, big enough. Yeah. What they are doing is actually they are. Yeah. Okay. A bit more maybe. Yeah. What they are doing actually, it's just single line. They are referring to another specific dedicated repository because they have also a bunch of scripts that needs to be run, so they don't need to put everything in their source code. Let's go to their specific. Here it is. So it's actually dedicated repository just for their Gitpod configuration. And in the Gitpod YAML, they are again referencing back their source code with additional repositories. This means that Gitpod needs to download this repo alongside with their configuration repository. Here, they are opening 5 ports. I think the most important one is the 8065 is actually where they will expose their running application. And they are also doing some, this is 9000, we just saw their welcome message. This is 680, they are opening it to run the Cypress test. They are referring to their dedicated Docker file, which you can see here. And in the Docker file, they are just exposing a bunch of environment variables that Gitpod needs. They are using GitHub pre-built functionality, and pre-built is basically caching the master branch, pulling all the pull requests, so it's faster when you create a new workspace. Here is the VS Code extensions. It's automatically download the Golang extension to your IDE, so you don't need to do anything again. I will skip the workspace location. It's just how it is visualized in the VS Code. We already talked about welcome. I think we can talk about server and the web app terminals. So in the server terminal, they are exporting one environment variable, which is the Gitpod URL that application will run. Then they are running the server, downloading all the dependencies for Golang. They are actually doing one nice thing, which I really like. They are injecting even test data, so you have already prepared. And finally, they are running the server. They are doing the same thing for web, installing the dependencies, running the application, running the front ends, etc. Let's check the first demo. So the first demo is ready. It asked me to open the project. Let's refresh. I don't know what's going on. We need to
Demo effect.
Yeah. Okay, let's check. Let's continue with the second demo. I would like to open the report. Okay. So this is actually the first one. It needed a few refresh. Then I want to also show you the second one. I cannot. It's probably it is still running the web terminal. Let's check. Yeah, it is still building up the application, but we can check this, so no need to spend some time. I will finish the presentation. Of course, all of you asking, do we need to pay for this? No, thankfully. So everyone has 50 hours per month free. And if you are a contributor to popular open source project, or you are a maintainer of open source project, you have 250 hours. And finally, they have a nice community. If you wanna get in touch and learn more about them, you can go to this link. And I would like to thank you, but before I want to show you the okay, I think it's compiled. It is ready to go. Let's see. Voila. So I think this is the beauty about this Gitpod. So if you want to learn Golang tomorrow, ciao to Claudio. He's the organizer of Golang community here. You can find an open source project, spin up a workspace environment, and you can start developing in 10-15 minutes without any hustle in your local setup. Thanks. If you have any questions, we can do it afterwards.
We can do it now if you want.
Yeah, if there is any question. Yes,
any question?
Sure.
From what I know, Gitpod is actually based on the Eclipse project Theia, which has created this web framework for creating IDEs. And I know there are other kind of equivalents to Gitpod, like Eclipse
GitHub.
G or
Also GitHub code spaces doing similar
Have you
things.
tried these alternatives? Because they all look pretty similar. They have the same interface. They have the same, I mean, they run on a web browser. And I think even like kind of Visual Studio Code is kind of some fork of Gitpod in a certain way. How would you compare these? Have you tried these alternatives and did you compare them?
To be honest, I didn't. I haven't tried the GitHub code spaces. But you are right. The idea is they are just spin up a work environment in cloud, and they show this through a VS Code and web version. And VS Code is, as far as I know, is basically fork of the Microsoft VS Code. Unfortunately, I cannot see this one is better, that one is worse in these aspects. So, but they have a nice web page. They compare Gitpod with different provider. If you want, I can give you the link so you can check.
And how easy is it to
how easy is it to install Gitpod in a corporate environment where you have all the issues with compliance, the compliance office, security, and stuff like that? I mean, because if you're just on your own freelance or a startup, you just let's create a virtual machine, install it, and that's it. But you work in a huge company, so did you find it easy to get it?
I had to say this in the beginning as a disclaimer. I don't use Gitpod in my company. It's a as you said, it's a huge corporation with a lot of layers of compliance, security, etc. What they do instead of Gitpod, they open a virtual machine to you, so you connect remotely to your virtual machine and you develop your code there. I mean, there are cons and pros, and I'm not expert on the security aspect of this, but you are definitely right. It's close to impossible to have them accept such a solution. Please, Nanda.
So I just wanted to add, we tried to sort of, so I work for Gitpod. I work on like the infrastructure part of things, and we tried to sort of introduce, no, this is fine, thank you. We tried to sort of introduce Gitpod. So before we had a self-hosted solution, but now we call it dedicated solution for like corporate setups. And we tried to approach UniCredit and with self-hosted, and it was just painful. So, after a couple of months, we sort of gave up on that. But yeah, just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes.
I have two questions actually. First, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to ask if people like this idea, and given that it's open source, is it possible to like somehow self-host it in some way? That's the first question. the second question is like, is there a possibility? Is there like, are you aware of any ongoing developments or just a native solution that helps with all the Gitpod configurations, synchronizing with all the dependencies that's originally in the project? Because I can kind of imagine, okay, you kind of have to upgrade this dependency, and you also have to change that same thing on Gitpod side of things. I'm not exactly sure how that workflow is done, so I was just curious.
Honestly, I didn't get the second question, because in the Gitpods, you don't give any reference to any of your dependencies. You just tell Gitpod how to run the project.
Okay, then I got confused because I thought you said on the second example that you gave on with the Golang.
Yeah.
I thought you were pointing at a couple of lines saying that they're installing dependencies there.
No, they are. Yes, you are right. I said they are installing dependencies, but they are actually giving a Gitpod the command to install
they're pointing
the
at the okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and the first part of the question, maybe I can ask some help from Gitpoders.
Yeah, so we used to have a self-hosted solution. Unfortunately, we don't have it. We don't support it anymore. So the code base itself is open, but the deployment of it's not right now. So what we offer is sort of dedicated setup. So we manage your setup on AWS only. So yeah, that's it.
Another question?
Thank you. You have shown the usage of Gitpod mainly for development purpose. Are you aware of some use cases when you can exploit what you have already done in the YAML file for deployment of your project, or you see Gitpod just for the development phase?
Personally, I use Gitpod for only my development, but is there any option? Yeah.
Yeah, so if in addition to setting up your development environment, there is some use case or some example where it helps also for the deployment or CI/CD or.
Right now we don't. Okay. Just for development, and then you can sort of share the hosted environment. Like you can actually workspace share and all that. But yeah, right now the workflow is not for CI/CD.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes. Lots of questions today.
Random question. I'm kind of the special guy that works using NeoVim. Can I remotely connect to like a Gitpod instance?
That was the question.
Please.
So I use. Thank you. So I am a Emacs user. I worst case I use Vim. So switching to like a browser. Okay, we will talk later. Switching to a browser only setup was kind of difficult, and I also didn't want to switch to VS Code. Like I cared about my development setup. So right now we have like a terminal only setup. And of course, even if you use VS Code, whichever, you always can SSH into your workspace. So if you look at the Gitpod dashboard, you will see the option to actually SSH into your workspace. You can add your dot files. So if you have a repo where you actually commit your dot files, you can just commit it, because gitpod.yaml is repo specific. Most of us will have like user specific configurations, right? So you can just use your gitpod, gitpod GitHub repo where you have your dot files, and it just do your thing. Like you can run a setup.sh on startup, and it just does the thing for you. So it's a lot configurable in that sense. So yes, I think the question was if you could, yeah, you can totally SSH. Yes.
Thank you. Any other question? No? Cool. So who needs Mac anymore now, right?
Right.
I mean, we can just use a browser. Yeah, okay. Also now I get what Gitpod means. Gitpod, pod for Git. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Sinan. Thank you. Okay. So a little break to change the computer.
And then we're back.